The Audi A3 is an attainable luxury car. While it does have a redesign due next year, it still keeps up with the competition and is a unique offering in the class. That being said, it does show its age, which is a blessing as much as it's a curse.
If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel so you can help me take this to the next level. Thank you. Now back to the review.
You wouldn't really be able to tell that this is older than most of its competition. The front end still looks pretty sharp. Audi uses bold lines in their designs. With the A3, you're going to get the black optics package standard.
And all that means is you get a black grille and trim pieces. The $3,200 Quattro all-wheel drive upgrade also adds 40 horsepower, which is something I will demonstrate later in my backroad shenanigans portion of the review. Quattro also conjures the S-Line package, which gives you some revised fenders, ground effects, and wheels. Real quick, I would like to thank Royal on the Eastside for loaning me the Audis used in this review. If you're looking for something new, used, or just plain cool, check them out.
With the Audi A3, you only have two trims, which is Premium and Premium Plus. Makes my job super easy. On the Premium, you're only going to get xenon headlights, which are actually still pretty good, with LED daytime running lights. And then if you get the Premium Plus, you'll get full LEDs up front. You're not going to get any fog lights anywhere. You're just going to get these fake vents, which on the S3 and RS3 are real vents. Looking at the side of the Audi A3 reminds you just how small this thing is. Like, its proportions look so shrunken.
Despite its cutesy dimensions, the A3 definitely has the Audi design language, so it still appears upscale. It also comes with proximity unlock with some reassuring doors as standard. Before you ask, America does not get an A3 hatch, but there is a cabriolet version available.
You can get a few different variations of 18-inch wheels on the Audi A3. You can also opt for a 19-inch wheel package if you want. The rear end of the Audi A3 is pretty crisp and modern. You have full LED taillights as standard, real exhaust pipes,
which some other Audis can't boast. Overall, the simple, bold lines throughout combined with some smooth curves have helped this age well in my mind, but hey, looks are subjective, so tell me what you guys think in the comments section. The interior is just like the exterior in that it has aged well with true Audi fit and finish, well-designed seats, and some old-fashioned, satisfying dials and buttons.
And that's what I like so much about it. Everything clicks. The rotary dial here that controls your 7-inch touchscreen has a satisfying movement to it and noise. The system itself is very intuitive, really quick responses. It doesn't have any kind of touch abilities, but that's fine with me. I can just keep my hand down here and do everything that I need to in a pretty speedy manner.
And since this is 2020, the standard pop-out 7-inch screen comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Technically, you can get a bigger touchscreen, ventilated front seats, and heated rear seats in a Kia Forte, and not in a loaded A3. And a Toyota Corolla comes standard with way more active safety tech too. But you don't pay for the features here. You more pay for the quality, the look, and the drive. That being said, it's no Econobox. You do get heated power seats, one-touch windows, dual-zone climate control that's automatic, a sunroof, and 2 USB ports as standard.
Then you have, your physical controls for the drive select, the auto engine stop-start, parking sensors, traction control. These also have a nice toggle to it that makes me almost just want to press them. And the same thing with the air conditioning unit down here. The dials feel so nice, even though it's all plastic. So this model is the premium trim, as I mentioned before, but this has the final edition package, which means you get a different seat up front. You get basically the S3 seats, which has an adjustable depth down here, which is great for taller drivers. But I mean, the front seats are going to be power 8-way adjustable, and then the passenger seat even has a height adjustment. It's still manual, but it's there at least. And then you get this great flat bottom steering wheel that's not normally on the S-line products. I mean, it's actually really sweet. The leather feels high quality, but the steering wheel itself just looks very Audi. And that's one of the biggest compliments to this interior. It looks like a freaking Audi in here at 33 grand starting. And by the way, I'd highly recommend the final edition package if you can find one, because it's only $800 extra.
I would also like to mention that Audi's latest interiors feel durable. There's no creaking or shaking if you move in the cabin or if you're driving. As I mentioned before, the interior doesn't have much metal or leather outside of the seats, but the plastics here are great enough to put even Hollywood to shame. There are varied textures and finishes that continue the notion that this is a true Audi and not just a $35,000 compact car with a pretty badge.
You got this analog gauge cluster in here that looks, clean, pretty standard Audi stuff. The multifunction display is standard on both the Premium and Premium Plus, but on the Premium Plus you can opt for a virtual cockpit system, which I think is the best digital gauge cluster on the market, period. Now you get that by getting the navigation.
It's highly customizable and easy to use. A wireless charger comes on the Premium Plus trim along with extra USB ports and a punchy 14-speaker Bang & Olufsen system. The 10-speaker system is loud and sounds crisp enough, yet it lacks solid bass from its 180 watts.
Now for a few criticisms. The paddle shifters. What the hell are these? I know that this is kind of the norm, is these little tacked on plastic things. Why can't you do something that feels a little bit better? And they do the same thing. I mean, the S3 and RS3 have a little bit better paddles, but I mean, it's the same premise.
And while it does have soft touch leather for where your elbows rest, your knees are shown no such love, as is the case with most cars, unfortunately. These are nitpicks though. The A3 interior is overall competitive. It's a modern, engaging place to be. The biggest downfall of it would have to be the space.
With me, if I'm fine up here, the person in the back seat is, well, fucked. The space back here is pretty tight. I mean, if somebody's really over about 5'10", 5'8", they're probably gonna be a little pissed off that you put them back here. Now, with that being said, at least you still get some pretty plastic to look at, and you get HVAC vents back here. You can get more USB ports, so at least you can satisfy some people's technological needs. And also, you probably can't see it, but my head does definitely hit the roof. Again, I'm tall, but even some people shorter than me are gonna have issues with this. So, the trunk of the Audi A3 is cramped, tight. I regret doing that. Ooh. Now, I will have to say that the A3 has a usable cargo area, but it's just so much smaller than even what you'd find in like a Volkswagen Jetta. You can fold the rear seats, but it's just simply too short. I will have to say one thing, at least with the A3, you get a spare tire and not just some fix-a-flat kit.
While I can see that this lack of space is a downside, some people liken this car to the old B5 A4 due to their similar dimensions. On the road, the compact footprint, torquey turbocharged engine, and sure-footed all-wheel drive might remind you of the old Audi icon.
Behind the wheel of the 2020 Audi A3 is where it starts to show its age just a little bit. But let me elaborate. Ride comfort on smooth roads is great. Ride comfort through slightly rough roads is still pretty good. The A3 isn't going to get any adaptive suspension of any sorts, but personally, I think that just means there's less to go wrong. Making a luxury car a little bit more simple allows it to be more attainable to the, average folk.
Plus, the A3 runs on regular unleaded fuel, which lowers the running costs even further.
But I'm not going to say that this suspension is really great for comfort. Medium to larger impacts will resonate through the cabin on rougher roads. Whenever I got to areas that just really needed to be repaved, I started to notice where, it falls behind vehicles like the Audi A4. Is it bad? No. And with regard to comfort and performance, this is a capable vehicle. More so in the performance side. Road noise is, about what I would expect from a luxury car. It's more quiet than the Volkswagen Golf, which this thing is ultimately based on.
As it should be. Hopefully the new model will improve the dampening, because I wouldn't label the overall ride comfort here as better than really a Golf. I got the chance to drive the new Mazda 3 soon after I drove this, and I think that the Mazda was maybe just a smidge more comfortable than the A3 over rough roads. However, I will have to acknowledge that the A3's more sophisticated suspension architecture helped it feel way more in control when the roads weren't great.
Now let's talk a little bit about performance. So this has an iron block 2-liter turbocharged engine as standard equipment. The front wheel drive model, which is kind of hard to find in the Midwest, but I'm sure is more popular in the South, that only has 184 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. All A3s, including the S3 and RS3, come routed through a 7-speed dual clutch transmission.
This transmission shifts expeditiously during hard acceleration. It also helps the A3 return up to 36 miles per gallon with front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive models get 30. At low speeds, the transmission can be a little jerky and slow to respond when compared to a regular automatic. It also tends to roll a little on hills. The transmission also requires a fluid swap every 40,000 miles to run properly. Reliability overall for the A3 appears to be middle of the road, but it's better than your average luxury car. According to Consumer Reports, the fuel and electrical system require the most attention. These are relatively simple for a luxury car, and the Audi 2.0T engine is pretty tried and true outside of the old oil consumption problem that has since been fixed. It's no Lexus, but treat it right and it should do the same.
If you step up to the Quattro model, you're going to get the same 2-liter turbo, but it has 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque with Quattro all-wheel drive, as I mentioned before. $60. Around this little back road I got here, I mean, it hustles. There's not much in terms of noise. Now, I think the S3 is a little bit more fun to drive because the suspension is more dialed in. You have different modes and stuff, and this just is going to have a little bit more body roll. There's not too much present. There's pretty thin pillars up front, and the hood is so short and little, I really can't see it. And the dashboard is also very short, so it feels like the windshield is just right there. It feels like a little cockpit, and it's just a small car in general, so that adds to that effect. And so you feel a little bit claustrophobic in here, but in a kind of good way. The steering is precise, it's light, there's really no play on center. Point it where you want to go. The all-wheel drive and the 258 pound-feet of torque make sure that you get there.
The E3 has some noticeable turbo lag, but once it's spooled up, you are rewarded with a meaty power band that doesn't drop off hard at higher RPMs.
Okay, tight corner here. You can tell that it's got a tendency to push and understeer, but the rear end will come out too. I mean, it's definitely a front biased vehicle here. I really can't say I'm disappointed with how it handles on a back road. It's very capable, just don't expect added emotion there.
This shares an engine, power output, trans, and platform with the GTI, but it doesn't have the same steering response or feedback. Now, this at least handles in a confident manner as bumps and imperfections in the road won't mess up your trajectory, which is something I did notice slightly while driving the new, more premium Mazda 3. Body roll in here is more pronounced than in the GTI, but it's really well buttoned down overall for a luxury car. Jumping to the S3 will boost power and increase the baby Audi's appetite for corners. Luckily, I did have a brief time with the S3 and RS3, so I'll quickly cover how the S3 and RS3 drive. In truth though, these cars deserve individual reviews.
The Audi S3 has this really nice perforated steering wheel, which, I mean, the grips on it are amazing. Throwing it around some corners at speed, and you find it's pretty good. It's pretty capable. I am noticing just a slight bit of understeer when really pushing it, but that's as to be expected. The power rips you out of corners. The 292 horsepower out of this thing is no joke. It feels very similar to the Golf R, as I would expect it to. It's the same engine, same transmission, same platform. Just has, it feels like it has more insulation. The suspension feels just a little bit more forgiving. All right, so 0 to 60. 60. Oh man, that never gets old.
It costs $6,500 to upgrade from a base A3 Quattro to a base S3. If you want a fun experience, the S3 will fill some of that void left from the A3. And if you have the money, the RS3 will bring supercar rivaling speed to the table.
It's really hard to not just break every single law in sight. The steering has more feedback than the A3. That's the thing that I'm noticing right away. You can feel the vibrations actually coming through the steering wheel, something that you really don't feel very much in the S3 or A3. This thing rides pretty rough in its dynamic mode, but it's still not as like harsh as, you know, a Ford Focus RS or something like that. See, something that I find really funny is that the Ford Focus RS has 350 horsepower. This has 400. The new 2020 model is supposed to have 394. I don't know why they have 6 less. If we're going by Ford Focus standards, which says it has 350, this feels like 450. It's fast. It's really fast. $60. Ow. That makes your heart race. While the S3 can put a little bit of butterflies in your stomach, this puts straight bees in your stomach.
But you'll be spending 13 grand more. However, in reality, all 3 of these cars can be found well below their MSRP. Summary, the S3 is a great bang for the buck in regard to performance. The RS3 takes this even higher and adds more feedback in the process, along with a wholly 5-cylinder turbo howl. Back to the more reasonable A3. If you're debating the next gen model, I'm sure it is going to be more comfortable and have more features across the board, but if you value simplicity and clickiness, this generation is still a strong competitor. For all the safe people out there, autonomous braking comes standard, as do parking sensors. Blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert only come on the high trim, and adaptive cruise and lane assist are an additional package on top of that. While I could compare this to a Kia or a Mazda like I did earlier, I would be missing the point of the A3. While Audi should improve the ride comfort, it is far from offensive and strikes a balance between sport and comfort. While they should make it more spacious in the back, it would work okay for a small family. And while they could have more available features, it still has all of the basic luxury goods. Luxury cars are not about value, and neither is this. The Audi A3 is a true attainable luxury car. You get the sharp looks, the refined engaging interior, and the rapid acceleration of an Audi, all for a price that doesn't make your ears bleed. Is it a great value? No. But is it just a more expensive Jetta GLI? No. And that's why the A3 deserves some respect. Audi did not take the easy way out, and it shows. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.